will be your first Photoshop tutorial. What you need to do is begin by opening the Photoshop program. If you have a shortcut on your desktop, go ahead and open it from there. If not, you can find it under Adobe Design and Web Premium. It doesn't matter. What we are going to do is go over the very basic elements of Photoshop. As I mentioned before, I will direct you to some more advanced tutorials that already exist once you have learned the basics. The reason I am only giving you the basic tutorials is because there are so many different things you can do with Photoshop. It makes sense to utilize the tutorials that people have already made to find something that you are interested in. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're simply going to go to File, Open. In Photoshop, you can open 3 different types of documents. So what I would like for you to do is to go to your Multimedia folder, go into your Class Resources, go into Tutorials, and then Photoshop. And in that, you will find a folder called Pictures for Tutorial. I have given you several different pictures of me, of Bona, different cities and places that we can use throughout the process of learning Photoshop. But what I want you to notice is that there are 3 types of files that can be opened with Photoshop. The first is any sort of image, so a JPEG image, a TIFF, which is TIFF, or a PNG file, which is PNG, also a CR2 file, which is a raw photo. Okay, I'm going to explain that in another tutorial. And then the last type you can open is a Photoshop document, which you will be saving all of these tutorials as Photoshop documents. So what we're going to do is we are going to start with a photo. Okay, the one I would like you to start with is a pretty simple one. It says 80s party. It's a picture of me. It's going to open as a JPEG. Okay. And what I'm going to do is just show you some very basic things that can be done in Photoshop using the toolbar on the left. If you recall, just like in InDesign, you can click on this double arrow and make your toolbar double-sided. Your toolbar is divided into 3 different categories. Okay, the top category is simply having to do with selection, cropping, any sort of selection, or your black arrow, which is your default. Looks a little different. It's called the Move tool, but it's black and it has 4 arrows to the right of it. That's your default tool. If you're on that tool, you should be able to pick any tool you'd like from there. The next set of tools is called your editing or your retouching. Okay, all the things within this tool, this section of the toolbar, help you to edit or retouch a portion of your picture. This section below is simply graphics, so text, graphics, anything like that where you would want to add additional things to your photograph. And then the bottom is very similar to InDesign. You have your zoom and your move tool, and then these 2 colors right here are slightly different. There's no outline or stroke in Photoshop. There's just 2 different colors that are essentially fill colors. Both of those fill colors operate in the same way. Apologize for that pop-up. Okay, so let's talk about the first set of tools, which is the selection tools. A selection is exactly what it sounds like. It is selecting only a certain portion of a picture. Okay, so your first selection tool that I would like to show you is called the Magic Wand tool, and it looks like a magic wand. What it does is essentially grabs, wherever you click, it will grab anything that is similar in color. So as you noticed, it grabbed the white. It stopped right down here because the color changes. If I wanted to add to my selection, I can hold Shift and continue clicking. And as long as I have Shift held, I can move my magic wand around to various places to add to my selection. Okay. When I want to deselect, or I want to take this selection, which is always indicated by a flashing dashed line. Whatever is flashing in the dashed line is what you have selected. If you want to make that go away, you hit Control D, which is deselect. Okay, I'm going to zoom in and show you things that the magic wand is not good at. Okay, the magic wand is not great for things where there's a lot of color variation. So you notice where I've selected around my hair. If I wanted to select all my hair to say, I don't know, make it bigger or take it out and add in some 80s, more 80s hair, then this would be the wrong tool to use to select my hair. The thing that the magic wand does well is it starts with a basic selection where there's a lot of the same color and there's a lot of contrast. If I were wearing a white shirt against a white background, the magic wand tool would not work very well. It would end up selecting portions of my shirt, probably portions of my face as well. So that is the magic wand tool. Go ahead and hit Control D if you still have something selected. The next selection tool underneath that is called the Quick Selection tool. The Quick Selection tool is similar to the magic wand in that it's going to click on a color and it's going to select things near it. But with this tool, you click your mouse and you hold it down. Don't let go of your mouse, and then you can drag and complete your selection. Okay, so the difference with the magic wand tool is you have to hold Shift to add to your selection. With the Quick Select tool, I'm going to hit Control D and do it again. With the Quick Select tool, you click the left mouse button and you continue to move your mouse around and it will grab similar colors. As you'll notice, it's also just a quick way of selecting. It's not a very exact way of selecting. If you zoom in on my hair, you'll notice it didn't read that contrast very well. So it ends up selecting a portion of my hair. What you can do to deselect or to take things out of the selection, like I said before, to add to a selection, you hold Shift. To take away from a selection, I can go to my magic wand tool and I can hold Alt. If you can see, it adds a little negative sign underneath the magic wand. While I'm holding Alt, I can then select the portions of my hair that I don't want to go away. Okay, and again, if I took away a big portion, so there I took away a big portion of the white, if I wanted to add that back, I simply hold Shift. Okay. The other selection tools that are available to you are rectangular marquee. So let's say you just wanted to select a square or a section of the picture and to edit a small portion of it. You can do that. You can do an ellipse. Okay, by holding Shift, it will give you a perfect circle. And you can move those selections around by putting your mouse inside of them. Okay. So if you want a very specific shape, a very geometric shape, then those two are your best bet. And then the last types of selections that you can make, there are 3 categories under this one. There is what's called a lasso tool, a polygonal lasso tool, and a magnetic lasso tool. Let's start with the lasso tool. This is something that is best used if you have a tablet and a pin that you can use as a digital pin. It is very difficult to use the lasso tool with a mouse, and I'm going to just show you why quickly. Okay, the little black arrow on your screen that is right above the lasso, that is where your selection starts. So if you look at the black arrow, I'm going to try to do a selection around my shirt sleeve. Okay, so as I click and hold my mouse down, it's essentially like drawing with the mouse. But what you'll notice as you try it, it's very difficult to follow the line very well. If you have a tablet and you'd like to try it out, this is a great tool to use with a tablet. But when using a mouse, I suggest you avoid the lasso tool, simply because it takes a lot of practice to get that exact. An alternative to the lasso tool is the polygonal lasso. The polygonal lasso is going to draw straight lines, which sounds like it would be limiting, but if you draw enough straight lines, you can actually get a very good selection around something. So what I'm going to do is do the same section of my shirt again. Again, remember the little black arrow you see, that's where the selection starts. You're going to click, and as long as you click enough times, the straight lines work quite well. Now, if you were trying to do a large portion, like say selecting from here to there, you'll notice that that straight line is a little restricting. But if you do lots and lots of selections, it works quite well. This is just a rough selection. You will still go back and alter this selection in several different ways, but I just want you to have a basic understanding of how the selection tool works. When you are making a selection, I started right here, and you'll notice I have the end of my tool. If I want to complete my selection, if I want that to close up, there are two ways I can do it. If I double click, it automatically draws a line from wherever my mouse is to the first point where I started. But what you'll notice is it gave me this funky shape. Okay? So whenever doing selections, the best rule is to try to get back to where you started whenever possible. I'm just going to do this small selection of my sleeve. And I click lots of times and I try to get as close to my original as possible. And you'll see that a small circle pops up on my selection because it's telling me I'm back to my original location and I will complete my selection. So now I could come in and edit just that portion of my shirt. You do not need to do this step, but I just want to quickly show you why you want to use selections. Selections allow you to make adjustments to only a portion of what you're selecting. If you'll notice the selection of my shirt that I have, I can then just change that portion of it. Okay? Obviously those are pretty odd part to change, but if I wanted to say change the color of my jacket, I could just select my jacket. Or if I wanted to change the color of my glasses, I could just change my glasses by selecting only the frames. Okay? So the reason we're learning how to make selections is so that we can begin to edit. But you can't edit if you can't select. So those are the two options under here, the lasso, the polygonal lasso. And then probably the most successful under this tab is the magnetic lasso. But there's something that the magnetic lasso relies on that you have to have for it to be successful. You have to have contrast between what you're trying to select and the background for the magnetic lasso to work successfully. What the magnetic lasso will do, it's very similar to the polygonal lasso, but what it does is it reads contrast. So if you click on your magnetic lasso and you start on an edge, you just drag your mouse. You don't need to click any buttons. You just simply drag your mouse along the edge of what you're selecting. And what you'll see is that the magnetic lasso is reading the contrast between what it is selecting. It's having a little trouble around my hair because there's not as much contrast. But I continue to select. I can't stop in the middle, even if I haven't selected the portions that I want. I can't stop, otherwise it will double click and go back to the beginning. So I continue to move that magnetic lasso. And you'll see it's no trouble at all selecting my jacket because it's such contrast against the white background. You can also click along the way if you want. If there's a specific place that you're trying to get it to select and it doesn't want to go there, you can click your mouse. Let's say I want to go all the way around the bottom of my jacket. Again, I got to get back to where I started. Otherwise, we'll make a strange line through the middle. And then I get the circle again at the bottom, and I have completed my selection. As I noted before, if I wanted to continue using the magnetic lasso tool and I wanted to add to my selection, because as you noticed it cut off a large portion of my hair, I can hold the shift tool. It gives you that little plus sign, and I can do the same thing. I can click and try to include, and I'm using the clicks of my mouse wherever it's having trouble reading that contrast. I can click and continue clicking around my hair, or I can drag. Now what I need to do, because I want to add that portion back in, I've got to come all the way inside of here and double click, and it has now added that portion back. If I wanted to take a portion out, again I hold Alt on the keyboard and I come around the portion that I want to take off. Magnetic lasso, polygonal lasso, and the regular lasso tool, as well as the magic wand and the quick selection tool, are rough selections. They are meant to help you get a rough selection very quickly. Refining those selections will be covered in another tutorial, and they are very important to doing good Photoshop or bad Photoshop. The selection is where it all begins. With a bad selection, as you see right here, if I were to begin Photoshopping right now, this would obviously create very strange lines around my hair. It would create strange perspective where it looks like a large portion of my head is cut off. So selection is the beginning steps of good Photoshop. All of the selection tools you need are found in this upper tab of your toolbar. I want to quickly cover the last two things that are in here. You have your crop tool. Okay, the crop tool is probably the only one you will ever use. I will go over in another tutorial the different options here, but for the most part, the only one in this sub-tab you'll need is crop, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It simply is meant to crop the overall size of your photograph. You can pull it in or out to zoom in on the portion that you would like. To complete a crop, you hit Enter, and it will automatically crop. Or to escape from a crop, you hit Escape. To end a crop. If you don't want to do it, you hit Escape. Okay? And then the last one on here is the Eyedropper tool. It's very similar to what you had in InDesign. It's simply a color selector. All of these options underneath here are much more advanced. Those are things we don't really need to know. The Eyedropper tool is simple. If you look over here to the left, you'll see that the colors change as I use the selector tool. Okay, so the eyedropper in Photoshop is the same as it is in InDesign. That is what these upper tabs are used for. And if you notice, every single tab except for your black arrow has a sub-tab. Remember, to get to those sub-tabs, you click and pull to the right. Click and pull while still holding down the button to the right. That's how you open all of those different options up.